welcome back. It's great to have you back.
Thank you.
You just finished your panel?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about how it went.
Well, it was a little different than the panels that where, say, an artist shows up and they just kind of free form it. This was really an attempt to give the participants here something where they can walk away with specific tools. So it was not like a class, but more about giving people specific information. And so we had like 14 pages of notes and things projected and all that. So it was, I crammed what would probably have been 9 weeks of study into an hour.
Wow, that's quite a feat.
Yeah.
15 pages of notes, really. That's incredible. So that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
Tell me, how do you think people responded?
Well, I can't say exactly how they respond. I mean, everybody seemed to be a buzz in the room, but basically, music is at a crossroads creatively. Everyone's talking about, DVD sales going down or artists having problems, but we were talking about orchestration and where things are going. And I've been working as a composer in Hollywood for 30 years. I've got about 40,000 compositions in ASCAP. And so I know a few things. And so I tried to put it into a system that would show them that they could use music and view it in a different way. So it was really like going from horse and buggies to a car. We're going to a whole new level of something. So everybody was a little bit like, a possum in the headlights, but I think they all seemed to grasp on that it was really something good and something they could take and use.
Yeah, that's great. It's actionable information. That's really helpful. So tell us some of the tips that you're giving people who are just starting out as composers right now.
Well, if they're starting out as composers right now, you still need to learn about music. And so take a class, be in a band, do music all the time, because it's basically how many hours you spend at your craft. The Beatles played in a club somewhere, I think in Cologne, for 10 years before anybody knew who the Beatles were. And they did jazz and standards, and they played 2 sets a night, 7 days a week. So by the time they got out and they were doing Hey Jude and all these things, everybody say, wow, they just came on the scene. Well, they had already put in their 10,000 hours of hard work. I mean, they worked as musicians. So I think if you can't discount the idea of actually working at it and working hard at it for a long period of time. I mean, we're in the Taco Bell generation where they go to a college and say, I want a degree and I'll meet you at the, drive forward and pay the thing, and you drive off with your taco education. And you can't just do that with music. It's still hard work. And the other fact is that you can control and design what you want to do. And nobody's saying that either, but it's really a fact. So we talked about those things. I hope that what I was saying was applicable to a songwriter and somebody that was a Hollywood composer or somebody that's done things, and it was. So those were the things we were talking about. I mean, it was called orchestration. It was called something like hardcore orchestration, but it wasn't about that. I called it thinking in the key of O for orchestration. So it was it's trying to think in a different way. Yeah. And I think you can't follow yesterday's models is the bottom line.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there is a perception that people just come out of nowhere and are instantly successful, and that has definitely not been the case ever in the history of music. I mean, every once in a while there is someone who just gets plucked out of obscurity, but that is not the case with most people. So tell me, for you personally, where did you put in your 10,000 hours?
Well, when I was in high school, I started taking college classes, and I would go to the community college and take theory. So I finished my music courses. When I started in college, I had already finished all of my basic music classes, and so I got to write. I just became composer for all of the groups, the choirs, the bands, the orchestras, string quartets, anything that was around. I was just writing all day long, and the teachers would just have me do a final. So I'd come in, do the final, and leave. So I didn't really care about getting out of school or getting into school. I mean, I messed around and then finally said, oh, I better graduate, and just took all the physics and all the things as a senior that I was supposed to take all those years. So it doesn't matter when you put in your 10,000 hours. And I think the other thing that people are pulling away from this is as they come in here, John Mayer speak or Quincy Jones, or people that do it, they see that A, they're real people. So that's something that the average person has. B, that if you put in the time for long enough, you're going to get somewhere. That none of them were overnight successes. You know, they all worked hard. I mean, Mozart didn't have a hit till he was 18.
And he had started at 4.
He started at 4,
right.
But his dad was doing most of his work. But and Bill Gates, they had a computer programming class at his school when they didn't have computers that he had to do the programming, and Bonneville Power hired him to be a programmer. And so while he was in high school, he was working, and then when he got out of high school, he could go reinvent computer software at 18.
Right.
Where everyone else was wondering, who they're going to date on Friday night. So
if there's one thing that you want people to walk away from this with, it's don't date.
Don't date.
Stay in on Friday night.
Be a monk. and play in a club in Cologne. Two sets a night for 7 weeks for 10 years.
You heard it from Ron Jones. Don't date, play in Cologne.
Don't date. Don't have any of that. That's
nope. But in all sincerity, put in the work.
Yeah, it's a 4-letter word that actually will help you get there.
So speaking of putting in the work, what are you working on right now?
I'm still working away on Family Guy, and we just had an 80-piece orchestra, which is for television. That's almost an oxymoron to say live orchestra, and we had 80. And I have a session at Warner Brothers on Monday, and just writing. And I have a jazz band, and I have a symphony orchestra, and do a lot of things. I have a heck of a garden in my backyard.
Where do you find the time for that?
All those times you don't sit in front of there doing email.
Yeah, I was going to say.
If you just don't do email.
Composing with one arm and plowing the garden with the other.
No. I mean, it's a nice break because if you set for 70 minutes, I get up. I have an egg timer, and I go out and do something with my plants. And it's doing something positive, and it gets you outside. So.
Is that how you work? You actually set aside a certain block of time that you're going to write?
Yeah, I have an egg timer. If I can't finish a cue in 70 minutes, I failed. So it's 15 minutes to figure out what I'm going to do, 15 minutes to write it down, and 30 minutes to do the final orchestration. Done.
Is that something that you recommend to other people to schedule themselves
Don't
out
try
like
it.
that?
Don't try that at home. You'll hurt yourself. No, it takes.
That does sound like hardcore orchestration.
Well, look, it takes time because you organize your. I have everything I need right within arm's reach, so I don't have to go. Oh well, where's my instrument or where's my thing? Because by the time you add up all those minutes, you're wasting a lot of minutes. So I have my score paper, my pen, my monitor, everything, my pen. Everything, I can just swivel, so that saves half the time right there. So I do a lot of things to eliminate waste, and so I'm only concentrating on the ideas, and then I have 7 assistants that do the non-musical jobs, so that I can only just concentrate on the music.
Yeah.
So when I spend 8 hours of composing, it's 8 hours of composing. And what people are trying to do is juggle too many balls. So, just juggle one ball. We're not stereo people. We're mono.
So I realize that it's always serious work, but is it more fun sometimes to write for comedy?
No, it's always fun. Everything's fun. I have a ball doing everything. I have a total riot. My whole life is a riot. And it doesn't matter if I'm scoring. I had a blood clot.
That's because he doesn't date.
I had a blood clot when I was writing that one with the 80-piece orchestra, and I didn't go to the hospital for 10 days because I was writing, and then it became an aneurysm in my lungs.
Oh, my goodness.
And I kept writing, and I conducted the orchestra, came home from Fox, took my wife to dinner, and then I said, honey, I'm going to the hospital. And I just checked in. And they said, you had a blood clot for 10 days, and Yeah, I said, yeah, I was writing music, you know.
Yeah, they diagnosed your blood clot and your workaholism at the same time.
No, it's not work. No. I've never done any work in my life. I've never done work.
I think you're sending out a little bit of a mixed message here.
No,
you got to work hard, but don't work.
It's not follow your bliss, be your bliss.
Absolutely.
It's about human things. The how of happiness is about your human things. And ultimately, as you're creating music, it's not about how much money you make. It's about being happy. And so I do things that make me happy, and I'm creative at the same time. So it's a win, win, win. And then I get a big check from ASCAP. Another win. Gee, I get paid for having fun. I should be on the cover of a peanut butter jar. I'm having so much fun. Or a beer. I should start a beer company, you know.
Yeah, I think beer is more apropos. So you told us last year, but some people here haven't met you yet or haven't seen you here yet. Tell us why you joined ASCAP. What made you want to be an ASCAP member? I
was in ASCAP when I first started composing, and I got my little lapel button, you know, and I go, wow, I'm Aaron Copland. You know, I just was excited about that. And then when I got to Hollywood, I kind of fell in with the wrong crowd, and I got into BMI because I was with Mike Post, and he left, and I had to go.
Bad influences.
So I was with BMI for 25 years, and I got tired of just coming to the dinner once a year, and everybody says, oh, I wanted to be with an organization like ASCAP that's of the people, by the people, for the people. This is run by publishers, by composers, by songwriters, by people like yourself. In fact, anybody in here could be elected to the board, whereas this other organization is a corporation, and though they collect money and give money, they're not really, it's not about the same things. And I said, I don't care about them, what the difference is. I want to be with an organization that cares about that and building community, the human things. That's why I came.
And that's why we're all here at the Expo. And
ASCAP has some great humans. I have not met a more giving group of people, and honestly caring about each nano part. They trace down your, whatever the problem is, you know, if you're not getting your royalties, they trace that, but they also have events like this. So you want to be in an organization that's going to be helping you and not just sending you a check.
So for some of the people that may have missed your panel, who are standing here now and who may have missed when we were talking about it a little earlier, do you want to just really quickly give a little synopsis of everything you talked about earlier one more time?
Basically, art is a 3-letter word for bad science. You know, like if NASA was running, you know, if NASA was run by musicians, they go, yeah, we're going to shoot a guy up there, and there's a guy in there, hey, here we go, and it's like, we're going for Mars, but we don't know where it is, and okay, go, and it goes off, and it blows off somewhere. I mean, that's our idea of precision. And whereas we're dealing with sound is science, mixing is science, the equipment down this hallway is all based in software, and we ignore how science is. So my talk wasn't about science, but it was about taking the elements of music and putting it back in the power of the creators and back in your control, and using your brain and using your mind to think ways through, like planning where you're going. And another big part was leverage. Like, everyone thinks it's like an SAT test where you have to get a high score. I got to finish this song. It's got to be perfect. Write 15 versions. Feel free to fail, because it was from failure that we got movement. So I told everybody, be a big failure, to leverage things, to start with small ideas and build to big ideas. So I showed them a scene from Family Guy where there was no music, then with the 80-piece orchestra, and then with the scene to picture, and showed them how it's sketched. There was a single-line sketch, then a 3-line sketch, then a 7-line sketch, and then a score. It wasn't just like an act of diarrhea, you know, that all of a sudden there's all this music.
That's the second time the bowel movements have come up on the stage today.
Look, there's more.
Incidentally, Linda Perry compared songwriting to bowel movements as well. It's a theme.